I know I said I was going to get a haircut before this week's video, but I didn't get home on time on Friday before the barber closed, so I should have gotten a haircut by next week's video. So I guess this week I'll show you the Mamiya RB67 Pro S. Of course, I'll tell you a little bit about why I got it and show you how everything sounds and feels. So in last week's video, I talked about the Pentax 67 and how there might be problems in the next decade with repairing cameras with electronic shutters. So that's why I got the Mamiya RB67. This is the only 6x7 SLR that has a mechanical shutter. The Pentax 67, the Bronica GS-1, and the Mamiya RZ67, all those have electronic shutters, and I'm not really sure if you're going to be able to repair them, next decade. Will we have parts to repair the electronic components? Will people be able to manufacture replacement parts? Will there be enough parts bodies? Is it going to be practical to keep them running? I kind of, if I'm being a pessimist, I'm just not very optimistic about how practical it's going to be. So that's why I got the RB67, even though I don't really have a distinct use for it in mind. Although it would be nice to be able to have flash sync at all speeds. So I got some lenses for just sort of outdoor portrait situations. This is the 90mm 3.8, and then also have the 140mm 4.5. So that's good for full-length portraits and sort of 3/4-ish portraits outdoors, and that sometimes you need fill flash for. So that's basically why I got the RB67. I got the Pro S version specifically just because I think it's the nicest looking Mamiya 6x7 SLR. The waist level viewfinder has this really classic looking Mamiya Secor logo on it, and also the back, the film back has the nice rounded profile to it. The later SD version is it doesn't have those things, so it's not quite as classic looking. So that's why I went with the Pro S version. It's kind of superficial, but that's that's just the way I go about shopping for cameras. I always go for the nicest one that to my taste at least. That's also why I got the original 6x7 version of the Pentax, because it has the old-fashioned front plate right there on the prism. Okay, so that's basically why I got the RB67. As for the feel of the camera and everything, starting off with the size and weight, this is a really big and heavy camera. There's no way around it. This thing is gigantic. I want to keep this video as short as possible just because my hands are going to get tired, but there's a lot to cover in this camera, so let's try to go through it all real quickly. Okay, so size and weight, it's huge. If you want to compare it to the Hasselblad here, you can just see like why some people say the Hasselblad is so compact. It's because compared to something like the RB67, it is really compact. So here's the front, and then from the top here you can really see just how much of a difference there is. This thing is so big just for an extra 1 centimeter of image space. So that's compared to the Hasselblad. And if you want to compare it to another 6x7 camera, this is where it's sort of more comparable. This is still a little bit more compact looking because of the sort of 35mm form factor and the different film transport system, but this is still really big in comparison. So if you want a field camera to walk around with all day, I would not recommend this exactly. This is kind of more of a studio camera, but with a nice thick leather camera strap, and using the waist level finder to sort of support all the weight and not have to hold it up so high like with the eye level finder. And probably not intolerable for you. So you should still be able to use it outdoors, walking around, for general photography or landscape photography, and not die. But yeah, that might be an issue. Overall build quality is pretty good. It's very it's pretty rugged feeling, although there are some plastic parts and some delicate feeling parts that don't give off the impression of extreme ruggedness like the Pentax 67 does. But overall, I don't think anything is gonna just fall apart or anything. The grip, the handling is kind of like the Hasselblad, except it has bellows focusing, and it has like a dual stroke film cocking and film advance setup. But overall, the handling is alright. Anyway, the shutter is actually pretty nice sounding compared to like the Pentax 67. When I first got it, I was really surprised by how pretty smooth and surprisingly gentle it sounded in comparison. So I'll just compare the shutter sounds of all these cameras. So here we go. Okay, so there's the Mamiya, and then here's 67. So and here's the Hasselblad. You can hear how the non-instant mirror sort of makes this a gentler sound compared to the Pentax. Oh, so it just flops up and then it comes down a little bit after you advance the shutter cocking lever. But for the Pentax, it just goes right after each other. So that's why it has that clink clink sound for the mirror. It has sort of the same annoying factor of how the view gets interrupted when you trip the shutter, but it's not that bad for sort of a slower operating camera. So here the shutter sounds again. So got that. Pretty loud there. And comparatively gentle sounding. Okay, and then next, oh, I forgot this, the feel of this. Okay, so the travel for the first stage is pretty long. It's like 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters. And then there's like one millimeter of travel on the second firmer stage. So Mamiya sort of, I think, tends to go for like the hair trigger feel of a shutter button, because the Mamiya 6 and 7 also have a really sensitive shutter button. So maybe that's just how Mamiya likes to do it. Around the shutter button is the locking collar. Has a nice click when you turn it on. So anyhow, it's a nice feeling shutter button. The diameter is a little bit wider than the Hasselblad and the Rolleiflex, which is nice because just makes it less pokey and more comfortable. The feel of the shutter cocking lever is, it's okay. It's kind of firm and takes some a good amount of pressure to move it forward. And this lever, it doesn't wobble around side to side like that. Like out and back, out and in, or anything like that. It feels pretty sturdy. So that's a nice feeling lever. Let's see. Okay, so the viewfinders. This has the pinchy style, like the Rolleiflex interchangeable ones and all that, and the later style Hasselblad finders, and it has that springy feeling when it wants to like collapse in on itself. So the viewfinder is like actually pretty darn bright. This is an f3.8 lens, so it's 2/3 of a stop slower than the Hasselblad, but it's still basically the same viewfinder brightness. Even though this is a faster lens, the viewfinders are basically the same brightness. So if this had a 2.8 lens, I'm sure it would be even brighter than the Hasselblad. And the focusing snap is actually pretty darn good. Things come in and out of focus really clearly, so you can tell when you got your focus right. So I'm pretty darn impressed with this focusing screen. Compared to the Pentax, this is, of course, still like half a stop darker, but the focusing snap, of course, is really good on this too. So no problems there. So some people, they take the Mamiya screens and cut them down and put them in Rolleiflexes, and that must be like pretty good setup, because this is really bright, the illumination's even, and it has good focusing snap. I was kind of thinking about getting the eye level prism finder, because maybe someday I'll have a studio space and I'll be able to do studio portraits with a longer lens, like the 180 or the 250. And if I got those lenses, then it'll be nice to be able to put this on a tripod and look through the viewfinder, like straight on, instead of having to look through the waist level finder. So I wasn't able to find out if the later version, the Model 2, had better eye relief than the original prism finder. None of the brochures or the manuals say anything about the eye relief. So if you know what the eye relief is on the original and the Model 2 viewfinder, tell me in the comments, because I kind of want to know which one to get. Okay, next, the focusing knob and everything. So you can focus on either side of the camera, which is like nice if you're left-handed. And the knob is, it's plastic, but it's really sturdy and it's not sharp. So it's like just as equally comfortable as the Hasselblad's knob. And the focusing is pretty smooth and firm. And the bellows, I don't really know how well it stands up, but this one doesn't have any pinholes or anything. So I might be a little reluctant to take this outdoors a whole lot. I'm not sure how well it stands up to sand and water or anything like that. So the Pentax is really more of a landscapey kind of camera, I think. But this is pretty cool because it has this focusing distance chart on it that tells you how much exposure compensation you need to account for the extension. So let's see. Okay, so on this side of the chart, you have the focusing distance scale, and then on this side of the chart you have a legend for all the different lenses in the system, and there's a line for each lens that shows you what distance you're focused at and how much exposure compensation you'll need, which is shown on the legend is shown on the bottom. So with this, let's say I had this 90mm lens and I focused on something, and let's see, so if I had the 90mm lens, which is this second green line right here, then let's say I focused all the way here. So if I focused at the bottom of the line, and that would mean I was focused at 3 feet, because that's where it's intersecting. So that I would know I was focused at 3 feet, and I'm just entering this sort of speckled zone, and the speckled dot zone is where you have to add half a stop of extra exposure. If I had a longer lens like the 140, the 140 is the second white line, which is this one right here. So if I was focused, right there, I would follow the line down to the mark here, and it's basically focused at 4 feet right there. And yeah, I'd have to add half a stop of extra exposure to take the extension into account. So that's how you read this whole chart. This axis at the top it tells you how many millimeters of extension you have at that distance. So you can just sort of record that and calculate your magnification for that setup, for that particular setup. So you can sort of repeat your setups in the future if you need to, and make exposure calculations or whatever. This isn't just because this has bellows focusing, it doesn't tell you what your depth of field is automatically. It's uncoupled right here, so there's a little tab right here, and then it moves the depth of field scale around. So you read the distance from the line, the diagonal line. You read the focusing distance here, and then you transfer it over to this little focusing depth of field scale calculator thingy on the lens, and then you find out what your zone of focus is. This it turns smoothly. It sort of feels kind of light and maybe a little dry, and you can just hear how it sort of scrapes through all of that. So this is one of the things that doesn't feel quite so high quality on this camera. As for the rest of the lens, the aperture ring, this is one of the nicest aperture rings out there. It's you can just hear and feel how nice the detents are and crisp. And the ring itself is nicely dampened and smooth. There's no wiggling when you sort of when you're at a certain setting, so it doesn't really wiggle around a whole lot. It's nice and firm and all that sort of thing. So and it has the little tabs on both sides, so you can grip it. So this is a really great aperture ring. On the other hand, the shutter speed ring is really bad. It's just so this one is really wiggly, and it sort of jumps from one setting to the next. I'm guessing that's because of the leaf shutter, but yeah, this is like the jumpiest, sort of cheapest feeling shutter speed ring I've seen. Ugh. So yeah, I wish it was nicer, but whatever. Let's see, what else is on the lens? You got the flash sync mode switch, which is kind of, you have to push it in to change it, but sometimes it just, I don't know, it doesn't want to switch from the X to the M even though you push it in. Yeah. So it has this little pull-up dial for the mirror lockup, which is pretty nicely designed. You can get to this with gloves on, and has a nice click when you get turn it into the off position. This lever is for the aperture preview. It's this is like the flimsiest, sort of rattliest lever like I've seen on a camera, and kind of wondering if it's gonna break or something, just because it's so just like a little thin piece of metal and then screwed onto this little plastic square that has like no contouring or anything. This is like, I don't know, the engineer or designer, they just sort of lazy that day or something. Why didn't they come up with a better aperture preview lever? Anyway, okay. The breech lock is really good feeling. It has a nice click when you get to the unlock position, and overall it's like cinches down real tight and all that. So it's a nice feeling mounting ring. So that's pretty cool. Oh, there were a couple things that I missed. So, back with the focusing thing, this is the focusing lock. So you tighten it like that, and then you turn it off like this. It's plastic, but it feels sturdy. It has a nice click when you go into the off position. So if you're doing macro photography, you should lock it down so it doesn't move. It tightens down by friction, so there's no click at the end of it. So don't overdo it. Just go to finger feel to lock it down. What else was there? Am I missing something else up here? Oh, the Viewfinder. One thing I forgot to mention. To take the finders off, there's a little latch here that you have to press in, and then you can turn, and then you can slide the nameplate, and then you can take it off like that. And there are these two screws that slide into these little slots on the nameplate. So there's no foam padding or seals around it, so it kind of wiggles around a bit. Oh wait, I didn't even put it on right there. Okay. So it kind of wiggles around, even when you do have it mounted on right. I like that sort of click. So anyway, yeah. So it kind of wiggles around, but it won't fall off. Well, no, okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess it's okay. As for the back, like the top and bottom parts of the outer cassette, they're kind of made with plastic, so doesn't have the sort of bomb-proof feel of the Pentax, like I said. But if you drop it, it's probably better so it doesn't get dented. So it has these locks, nice feeling locks. Let's see, it has a lock on the bottom. Oh, I forgot, interlocks. It has interlocks, so you can't take off the back unless you have the dark slide in. There's interlocks right there. So gotta put this in, and then you can slide it out. So slide. Yeah. Okay, and then it slides out. Yeah, push the shutter. Okay, so slides off like that, and then it has a lever here on the bottom to take off the revolving adapter, and I need to clean the seals, replace them, but the Pro S, it doesn't have foam seals. It has a different design to it, so you don't have to bother with the seals. Let's see. So on the back, to open it, you had this little latch here. You pull on it, and it has like a surprisingly loud pop to it to take out the outer cassette from the film insert. So it's kind of cool how it just sort of all comes apart. And you seat this back in and fit that back in. It doesn't snap into position to close, so you just do it manually. And let's see, put this back on and slide that latch, nice and sturdy. And this is like one of the reasons why people might pick the RZ67 instead of the RB67, is that the RB has a film advance lever on the film back, and you have to do the shutter cocking and mirror return lever, and then you have to advance the film. This film advance lever has sort of that click on the midpoint of it. That's for the film counter. Kind of an annoying sound, but it's smooth and sturdy, and I like the ratchety sound on it. This little switch next to it, when it's red, that's the multi-exposure mode, and also lets you trip the shutter without film being inside it. If you have it covered, then that's like the normal shooting modes, and you won't be able to take a photo unless there's film in here. But yeah. So it's a little bit, I guess it might be a little bit more of a hassle if you're like shooting fast. Oh, take out the brush light and then I can trip shutter. So gotta do that, and then you gotta advance the film. Might be annoying just because you have to do two things instead of just one. So, but yeah, I would still get the RB67 instead of the RZ because of the mechanical shutter. So I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I didn't show you the revolving back. This, you don't have to push any button to switch over to the horizontal position. You just grab it, turn it, and it just switches over. Another thing why I like the RB67 instead of the RZ is because in the viewfinder, in the horizontal position, you have the lines on the ground glass to show you what the framing is going to be, and then when you twist it to the horizontal position, these red bars come up in the top and bottom to show you what the frame is going to be like. I like this way of showing the framing switch better than the RZ67, which has like these metal flaps with rounded corners that like move into place when you're in vertical orientation. It's just something about the rounded corners on the flaps that bugs me. It's not crisp. It's I just wish it had the straight edges instead of these little weird cutout rounded thingies on the corners. So it's just one stupid little annoyance. So if you want to if you just want to see the the boundaries sharp-edged, go with the RB67. Yeah. So that's pretty much it for this camera. Overall, very well-made, sturdy camera. Might not be as like rugged feeling as the Pentax 67, but overall I don't think you'll have any problems taking this into the great outdoors. But it might be a little bit heavier, and maybe some pieces like the bellows or whatever aren't like ideally suited to field work, but it's still a really well made camera, and if you're a little bit more careful, should be fine for any purpose. And that's it, I guess. So, if you have any questions, ask in the comments. If you have any other reasons why you would get a RB or an RZ that I haven't mentioned, let me know. If you have any information on the repairability, the availability of repair services for cameras with electronic shutters versus mechanical shutters or anything, let me know that too, because I'm always worried about that. Or if you have any thoughts on how the camera repair ecosystem might evolve in the 2020s. If you have any thoughts about that, I'd be very interested to hear about your thoughts on that. So that's it for today. Hope you got something out of it. And yeah, next week I should definitely have gotten a haircut if I can get to the barber on time after work. So happy holidays, I guess, and thanks for watching. Have a good week.